Welcome back. Today I'm going to put this bed into serious production. This used to be a set of our test beds, and then I extended it down further, but it doesn't grow beautifully. It needs some serious care. So I'm going to show you how I take a bed that is lousy and make it amazing. So we're going to prepare it right now for our fall gardens before it's even time to plant fall gardens. The very first thing we did to get this bed ready for planting is we took out the tomatoes that weren't producing anymore. We took out the weeds. We took out the rotten remnants of collards and junk that was in here. We threw all that stuff to the compost pile and to the chickens, so we have a nice clean surface. And then my wife raked it so it looks really pretty, and now I'm gonna destroy it. We did leave in a few vegetables that we're still producing. I don't know if you can count cantaloupes as a vegetable, but we're gonna count them as a vegetable because they're green right now. We also left our cayenne peppers in here, and we left in, of course, the Seminole pumpkins that I planted from my old variety that Heather sent me again. So those are going to remain in the bed, and the rest of it is getting prepped and prepared. First thing I gotta do here is to loosen the ground up a bit. Despite this area having been tilled and not walked on, it was tilled with a tractor tiller, and that tractor tiller really didn't take it as deep as I would have liked. I have a feeling that there are issues with compaction here that are messing with the plant's abilities to grow. Things didn't do great in this bed, and I think that's because the roots are happier when they can go deeper. In part, having really bad soil is something else all unto itself, but this broadfork, you see I'm not really turning the ground over, I'm just punching holes. This broadfork is allowing me to go deeper. The tines on this are 14 inches. This is a Meadow Creature broadfork, and those 14-inch tines, you can see the ground is hard there. You see how it plunged halfway in? That means there's about this 7 inches or so right here that is still hard. And I actually have to rock it into the ground. You'd think that with sandy soil like this, it wouldn't be that important, that the roots would just go right through, but they don't. I actually had daikons start going into the ground and then bounce off. They actually push the tops of the daikons out of the ground because there's some heavy compaction back here. I don't know why. I don't know if this used to be like a monster truck rally site or something. I do know that if I want better growth, happier roots, and happier plants, I need to do this first. Before you plant your fall garden, do this first. Well, that took about 10 minutes, but we've loosened it up, and I loosened close to the plants that I have, but not directly into the root systems as much as possible. I don't want to completely disrupt them. I would like a couple of hot peppers and a few cantaloupes, if possible, and I think they're going to be much happier with this looser soil. Alas, and what eldritch horrors have we uncovered? This is the Biochar, charged with a bephemerator. it's viscous with bacteria. That's exciting. Terrifying anaerobic bacteria. And what is this? It's like it's made a mother on top, like when you make vinegar. So, oh yeah, that is amazing. Now this was kitchen scraps shredded together with charcoal. So this is very alive, and this is going to help our soil. Oh, it's so gooey. We could use a lot more than just this limited amount of biochar, and we will add more over time. This is what we have right now. In some areas you can see it went on thicker than in others. So I'm just spreading it around a little bit. Could probably use about 50 gallons more. This is a little taste of it, but I'm sure it'll help. This stuff that I'm spreading is Solomon's Gold. This is the micronutrient mix that Steve Solomon recommended for my soil. And it's complicated. There's a lot of bits and pieces that go into this. So if you want the recipe, I will put a link to my website with the full recipe for what it is currently. Because I took Steve's mix and I also added a few additions I think may help. Sort of like, maybe in case we miss something here, there's a little of this and there's a little of this. So it's got a couple of extra ingredients in it, but I'll put a link below. This is all the minerals that my soil was lacking, plus stuff that it didn't even know it needed, like ocean minerals. There's kelp meal in here, there's copper sulfate in here, there's gypsum in here. There is a ridiculous amount of different micronutrients in here, and unfortunately with how much rain we get and how poor our soil is, it doesn't stick around for a real long time. But man alive, it makes a difference in the flavor of food. It's startling how much better it tastes. My son grew watermelons and he made mounds, and I had him bury some of this in each one of the mounds. He put about a cup in each mound when he planted the watermelons, and we got a watermelon in the other day, the first of his nice big ones, and I have never tasted a watermelon that had that explosive a watermelon flavor. It was so sweet and full of watermelon flavor. It was unreal. So I know it works. I believe in it now. And I think, to me, it's worth the extra work, definitely, for the health of my family, for the health of our bones and our teeth, and I can keep my hair shiny. And I'm not gonna breathe anymore because it's got dust in it. I'll see you in a minute. I'm in the hen house, and I'm getting some dirt from the floor here. Chicken run dirt. Biologically active. Beautiful compost. Months worth of chewing and turning and dropping and food scraps. They've had so much good. They've had better vegetables than most people eat. And I can just sift out this stuff and get some really amazing biological activity going in the garden. you doing? How did you get back in? You little punk. Come here. You want help? Did you want to help? Come here. Come here. Come here and help. This is gold here. It's a mixture of humus and chicken manure and some soil, and it's been turned. It is so alive and beautiful. This is easier than making compost in a hill. So the chickens are the great recyclers. If you have something that you're like, I can't stand to throw away the rest of that cake, but I'm certainly not going to eat it. Well, guess what? The chickens will eat it. The chickens will eat your peelings, your scraps. You could save your scraps from church meals. Dump it all to the chickens. Over the next week, they'll turn it and chew it and turn it and chew it. And eventually you get this. Tons of it. Tons of it. I could harvest probably 6 more wheelbarrows of this stuff out of there. And there'll be another 6 in another couple of months. Now, step 5. This is where things get serious. More serious. These are just black-eyed peas from the grocery store. My secret weapon of cheapness. Buy a bag of these things for like $1.50 or something, and then you use them for your cover crops. I have never had them not come up. These are Sudan sorghum grass cross, and the first set that I planted them far apart like corn, and I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to throw them all over and then crop them again and again. I'm still experimenting with them. This is new. I know I need a cover crop. Usually what I do is just throw down the southern peas, but I'm going to get some more biomass by throwing these guys down too. And I got this seed from Seven Springs Farm in a great big sack, which is more than I will ever need in my entire life. That's probably way overkill. But hey, we need that organic matter. This is some of my very first round of sorghum Sudan. So I'm gonna mow it down now that I have a purpose for it. And this will be our last step. Now when you mulch like this, you don't want to mulch real thick, because as everybody knows, mulching suppresses seed growth. All we're doing is putting them on here a little bit thin so the seeds can find their way through. They'll shade the ground a little bit, hold a little moisture in, help with the germination, and then provide a little bit of cooling to the ground, and a little bit more humus as they rot down. And these broad leaves are going to start to shrink up, and the seeds should come up just fine around all of them. You maybe have seen this where in Tennessee the highway crews would seed a broken area of ground by the roadside with some grass seed, and they would throw out a bale of hay, spread it all over, a thin spread of it across the ground, and the seeds come up just fine in between that hay or straw, stubble, usually straw. And that's just what we're doing here. And that is it. Now, if your soil is dry, before you put down the mulch layer and after you put down the seeds, give it a good watering. Water it in well, and then throw your light mulch over the top of it. This mulch, as you can see, has lots of gaps in it. Plants will come up just fine. And if I wanted to be really meticulous, I could go around like this and neurotically push all the beans into the ground. But I threw a lot of beans in here. And this is the rainy season in South Alabama, so it is going to be rained in just fine. This stuff is going to grow. There's no worries. And of course, when it does grow, I'll come back and show you what it looks like. But that is how, right now, I would super improve a bed. If you don't have all of these things, like if you don't have Steve Solomon's mix, that's fine. Throw down some good compost, throw down whatever fertilizer you have available, make sure that you're putting some good fertility into the soil. If you don't have biochar, you can make biochar. You can make it in your barbecue grill or whatever. If you have porous sand, like I have, that is always lacking for humus, biochar kind of fills in the gaps. It acts like a battery. It acts kind of like humus in the soil. It makes it light and fluffy. It provides a place for bacteria and fungi to hide, and it provides a nutrient battery in the ground. But you can make your own, and I've got other videos on that, and other people have videos on it. Steven from Skill Cult, Steven Edholm, he's brilliant. He's got all kinds of good videos on biochar. So you can look that up and do it. If you don't have sorghum Sudan grass to cover the top with, you can use some grass clippings. I would not go and purchase straw at this point because of the danger of persistent herbicides. But if you don't spray anything on your lawn, let it grow a little longer than usual. Bag it up, sprinkle it across a bed after you put down a cover crop. And anybody can get a bag of beans from the grocery store and throw it down. That's easy. As for the chicken run dirt, you can use compost if you have it. Worm castings will work. Any kind of nice source of humus. If you don't have chickens, you don't have a compost pile, you don't have a worm bin, you can go out to the woods, you can rake up an area of fallen leaves and sift out underneath. It's real easy to make a sifter out of some hardware cloth. This sort of improvement of a bed is not just for somebody that's got all kinds of cool stuff. Yes, I've built bits and pieces of cool stuff. I've added chickens. Thank you, Carolyn. I added chickens, and I have grown the sorghum Sudan grass, and I've mixed up the Steve Solomon's mix. I put a video on mixing up Steve Solomon's mix. But even if you have a very limited budget and limited time, this sort of work can do it. The roots of those cover crops are going to put life into the soil like you would not believe. They're collecting all that solar energy from the sun, and they're pumping it into sugars. They're making sugars that get pumped down into the soil, which feed bacteria in the ground, which lead to all kinds of micro life happening in the soil around the roots. It makes everything so alive and active. And then when they get chopped and dropped on top of the ground, they also rot down as humus. So between that and all the additional fertility that we've added, this is going to be beautiful. Combination of adding compost and amendments and cover cropping will make your beds super productive and beautiful and awesome, even in really poor soil. I've been doing that in my grocery row gardens. I threw down a bunch of black-eyed peas, and they've come up and they look absolutely gorgeous, and they're feeding the soil even right now as I'm talking. It's just holding the soil until I place something else in there, like I'm gonna do with these fall beds. And of course, as we go along, we'll come back and take a look at them. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to check out my book, Compost Everything, The Good Guide to Extreme Composting, and like and subscribe. And until next time, may your thumbs always be green. Do you throw banana peels in the trash? Are your coffee grounds also being thrown in the trash? Do you compost ham? Are you sick and tired of all the rules about composting? Do you wish you could compost in a super easy way? And stop throwing things in a landfill? And stop being a terrible person? Click on the link below and sign up and get my new composting booklet, which shows you how to compost easily and simply with hardly any work at all. It's insane how easy it is because it follows natural principles. Sign up now. Quantities are not limited.